He is 300 feet in the air. There is no safety rope, no harness, no shoes. He is not climbing for food. He is not climbing for water. He is climbing for honey. And not just any honey. The honey he is reaching for can stop a man's heart. It has poisoned Greek armies and Roman legions. It sells on the black market for $160 a kilogram. In some countries, it is illegal. The locals call it theos. The world calls it mad honey. And for over 2,000 years, only one tribe has known how to harvest it. This is the story of how they do it, why they still do it, and why it might be the last generation that ever will. To understand the honey, you have to understand the people who climb for it. In the Gandhari province of central Nepal, somewhere in the rugged foothills below the Annapurna range, there is a village called Bujung. Around it, scattered across the districts of Lamjung, Kaski, and Miyagdi, are dozens more like it. Stone houses, terraced fields, cut into hillsides too steep to walk straight up, goats, buckwheat, and families who have lived on this land for more than 1,000 years. The people who live here are called the Gurung. Their own name for themselves is Tamu. According to their oral history, they came down from Tibet sometime around the 6th century, settling in the high valleys that no one else wanted because no one else could survive there. They are farmers, they are shepherds. The men of the Gurung have served as Gurkha soldiers in the British and Indian armies for over 2 centuries, and they are famous around the world for being some of the toughest people on earth. But back home, in these villages, they have another job, one that almost no one else on the planet does, one that has been passed from father to son for, according to local elders, 22 generations. An 82-year-old Gurung man named Man Bahadur once told an interviewer that the very first hunt happened on a cliff his ancestors named Mahabir. In the local tongue, it just means honey hill. One of his ancestors, he said, was the first to scale it. That was around 600 years ago, give or take. Today, we are following one of his great-great-great-grandsons. The team is around 10 to 12 men strong. There's the lead climber called the Ameki. He is the only one who will touch the hive. There are 2 men whose only job is to anchor and manage the bamboo rope ladder from above. There are smoke keepers who will tend the fire below. There are basket handlers who will catch what falls. And there is a shaman. Before any of them moves a single step toward the cliff, the shaman has to be satisfied because they are not going up there alone. The mountain has opinions about who is allowed to take its honey, and the price for disrespecting that, every Gurung child grows up hearing, is to fall. The honey hunt is not a job. It is a puja, a worship. The shaman called the Amechi, or sometimes the village priest, has already done his work in the days leading up to this morning. He has consulted the lunar calendar. Tuesdays are good. Wednesdays are forbidden. The 8th day of the lunar cycle is unlucky. The 11th is worse. The 23rd, the 26th, and the 30th are not to be touched. If everything aligns, the hunt happens twice a year. Once in spring, when the rhododendron flowers are blooming. Once in autumn, when the hives are heaviest. The altar is built on the forest floor. The offerings are specific: rice, flowers, fruit, a bottle of Roxy, the local rice wine, and in some traditions, a bottle of Johnny Walker Red Label, because the cliff spirits, apparently, have developed a taste for it over the years. There is also a sacrifice, usually a chicken, sometimes a sheep. The animal's head goes to the master hunter its blood goes to the cliff. The hunters bow their heads. The shaman begins to chant. They are not praying to a Hindu god exactly. They are not praying to a Buddhist one either. They are praying to Brahmari Devi, the bee goddess. They are praying to the cliff itself. And in the Kulung tribe further east, in the Hongu River Valley, they pray to a spirit called Rankemi. The National Geographic team that lived with the Kulung tribe in 2017 recorded the mantra the Master Hunter whispers as he begins his climb. Translated, it goes something like this. You are Rankemi. You are of the bee spirits. We are not thieves. We are not bandits. We are with our ancestors. Please fly, please leave. The hunter is not just asking the bees to move. He is asking the mountain for permission to be there at all. And once the ceremony is done, there is one more rule that almost no outsider knows about. No member of the climbing team is allowed to participate if his wife is on her period that week, or if she is more than 6 months pregnant. The rules are not negotiable. The cliff, they believe, can tell. It is a 2-hour walk to the cliff. The cliff is roughly 100 meters high. Some are closer to 300. That is a 30-story building. That's made of wet rock, with handholds the size of a fingertip. That is not a shadow. That is the hive. Meet Apis laboriosa, the Himalayan giant honeybee, the largest honeybee in the world. Each one is about 3 centimeters long, twice the size of the bees you have in your backyard. Their sting is twice as painful too, maybe more. These bees do not build hives in trees. They do not build them in walls. They build them on south-facing rock overhangs between 1,200 and 4,000 meters above sea level, where almost no predator can reach them. Their combs are open, no protection. A single hive can hang from the rock like a half moon, up to 1.5 meters wide. Inside, there can be more than 1 million bees. The reason they live up here, on cliffs that nothing else can climb, is because of what they eat. Above 3,000 meters, 2 specific species of flower bloom. Rhododendron arboreum, which is Nepal's national flower, and Rhododendron campanulatum. Both of them produce a sweet, abundant nectar. Both of them in those high, cold, ultraviolet saturated altitudes also produce a poison. The bees do not know that. The bees just collect what is sweet. They take it home, they make it into honey, and the poison that the plants produce as a defense, a compound called grayonotoxin, ends up concentrated inside that honey. We will get to what grayonotoxin actually does to the human body in a minute. But first, we have to watch a man climb up there and get it. It begins with smoke. The fire at the base is lit with green, wet vegetation. The thicker and more acrid the smoke, the better. The smoke rises up the cliff face. It does not kill the bees. It just confuses them, slows them down, makes them think their hive is burning, so they cluster on the comb instead of attacking what is climbing up to take it. The latter is called a prang. The team spent 2 weeks weaving it. It is around 300 feet long. It is made entirely of bamboo strips, twisted together with wooden cross rungs. No metal, no nylon, no carabiners. He carries 2 things on his way down: a 25-foot bamboo pole hooked over one shoulder. It is called a tango. At the end of it is a sickle blade. And in his right hand, between his thumb and forefinger, he pinches a small bundle of smoldering grass. More smoke. To buy himself maybe 10 extra seconds of mercy from the bees once he gets close. He does not wear a bee suit. He wears a wool jacket and a thin cotton scarf wrapped around his head. Some hunters wear a mosquito net. Most do not. By the end of the day, he will have been stung between 20 and 40 times, sometimes more. The basket is called a tokari. The whole structure is alive. The ladder twists, the basket spins, the bees swarm, and he has to free up both hands somehow to cut. The honey comes out reddish, almost the color of dried blood. The Nepalis sometimes call it red honey for exactly that reason. When the comb is finally severed, it has to be steered into the swinging basket below. If the man on the rope misses, the comb shatters on the rocks, and a whole season's work is gone. According to one journalist who watched a gurung hunt firsthand, nearly half of the hives missed the basket and exploded on the rocks below. It can take 3 hours to harvest a single hive. The team will take 3 or 4 in a day. The hunt itself, it lasts 3 days. And once it is on the ground, the question becomes what exactly they have just risked their lives to collect. So what is actually inside it? The active compound is called granotoxin. It is a deterpenoid, a naturally occurring organic compound that the rhododendron produces as a chemical defense against insects that try to eat it. Apis laboriosa somehow can metabolize it without harm. Humans cannot. Here is roughly what the toxin does. Inside your nervous system, your nerves communicate by opening and closing tiny gates in their cell walls called sodium channels. Open, close, open, close. That is what lets electrical signals fire through your body. Heartbeats, muscle contractions, thought. Granotoxin gets in the way. It binds to those channels. It forces them to stay open. The signals stop firing correctly, and depending on how much of it you have just eaten, things start to break down in a very specific order. A small dose, about 1 teaspoon, produces a slow, warm, dream-like feeling. Locals describe it as a body high. A journalist for Vice who tried 2 teaspoons under the supervision of gurung hunters described it as a deep, icy heat that started at the back of the head and spread through the chest. He said it lasted several hours and was on the whole mild. A larger dose is not so mild. With 3 to 4 teaspoons, you start vomiting. You collapse. Your heart rate can drop to 30 or 40 beats a minute. Your blood pressure crashes. You hallucinate. You may temporarily lose the ability to move. In modern emergency rooms, granotoxin poisoning has a name. It is called mad honey disease. Cases have shown up in Turkey, in Nepal, and increasingly in places like South Korea and Germany, where the honey is shipped and sold online for hundreds of dollars a jar. According to a peer-reviewed paper in the journal Cardiovascular Toxicology, the toxicity is rarely fatal in humans. Most people recover within 24 hours. The mechanism was not properly understood by Western science until the late 20th century. Researchers studying the squid axon, of all things, figured out that granotoxin was hijacking the same sodium gates that lidocaine and other anesthetics target. That study, published in 1988, is still the foundational reference. Today, every emergency physician in Turkey's Black Sea region knows the symptoms by sight. Most tourists who get hit have eaten too much trying to recreate a TikTok video. The cure is fluids, atropine, and time. But rarely fatal is not the same as never. And the reason for that, oddly, is that humans figured out a very long time ago that you could weaponize it. The earliest written record of mad honey poisoning is more than 2,400 years old. The Greek general Xenophon, a student of Socrates, was leading an army of 10,000 Greek mercenaries home after a failed campaign in Persia. As they marched along the southern coast of the Black Sea, somewhere near a place called Trebizond, they came across abandoned beehives in the woods. They ate the honey. In his book Anabasis, Xenophon described what happened next. His soldiers, he wrote, became like intoxicated madmen. They vomited, they could not stand. They were seized with cruel despondency. Thousands of them lay on the ground as if they had been struck down in battle. The next morning, miraculously, most of them got up and kept walking. That was the first time. It was not the last. 3 centuries after Xenophon, the Roman general Pompey the Great was marching the same coastline, chasing King Mithridates VI of Pontus. Mithridates was a brilliant, paranoid king. He had spent his entire life dosing himself with small amounts of poison to build immunity, and he is suspected of being one of the first commanders in history to use chemical weapons in warfare. His allies, a mountain tribe called the Heptacometes, knew exactly what grew on those cliffs. Before Pompey's army arrived, they placed pots of mad honey along the road. They left it as if abandoned, as if they had fled in a hurry. The Romans ate it. According to the geographer Strabo, the Heptacometes waited until 3 full Roman maniples, roughly 1,000 soldiers, were on the ground, hallucinating and unable to fight. Then they attacked. There were no survivors. Some historians have suggested that the modern phrase honey trap may trace distantly all the way back to this moment. A lure made of something sweet, concealing something fatal. Back in the foothills of the Annapurna Range, the hunters are sitting around a fire. They are eating dinner: honey, frog leg soup, and roxy. The day is over. Across the Himalayas, the giant cliff bees are disappearing. Estimates from researchers and conservation groups, including the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, suggest the Apis laboriosa population has declined sharply in recent decades. Climate change is shifting the rhododendron bloom higher and higher up the mountains into colder air, where the bees cannot follow. Hydropower dams are flooding river valleys and felling the cliff forests. New roads are cutting through ancient hive sites. And then there is the demand. Mad honey now sells in Kathmandu for around $15 a kilogram and exports to East Asia for 10 times that. Trekking agencies pay villages to stage out-of-season hunts for tourists. The bees do not get the time they need to rebuild their hives. The cliffs lose their colonies. The younger Gurung men increasingly do not want to climb. There are easier jobs in Kathmandu. There is a road now where a generation ago there was nothing but forest. There is a phone signal in the village. There are choices. And so in a few of these valleys, the hunts have already stopped. Further east, in the Hongu River Valley, a Kulung hunter named Mauli Dan Rai performed what was likely his final harvest in 2017. He was the last man in his village of Sadi to have what the Kulung call the dream, a vision of the cliff spirit Rankemi that, by tradition, gives a man the right to touch the comb. A National Geographic team and the DZI Foundation, an aid group that has worked in the valley for over a decade, document the harvest on film. Mauli was 58 years old. He had been climbing those cliffs since he was 16. He said plainly that he was tired, that he had been widowed 3 times, that he did this work in the end because no one else in the village would. Multiply that story by 100 valleys, and you start to understand what is actually disappearing. For more than 2,000 years, somewhere in these mountains, a man has climbed a bamboo ladder to take a substance that ancient Greek soldiers, Roman legions, and Persian kings all knew by name. He has done it without a harness. He has done it without shoes. He has done it because someone before him, a long time ago, dreamed they were supposed to. We do not know how many more times it will happen. If you found this story worth sitting with, the rest of the channel is full of other ones. Other tribes, other mountains, other things we are losing while almost no one is watching. Subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.